everyone, it's Shannon from Stampin' Up. Shannon. I just wanted to come on today and do a demonstration for this super adorable card using the Amazing Silhouette stamp set. Now this stamp set is in the new mini catalog and it is on page 40. So it doesn't have any sentiments, but it does have some beautiful imagery. And today for this card, we're going to be using the tree. I just posted another video that uses the butterfly. So there are tons of videos out there that show you different ways to use this stamp set. But today I'm hoping to show you a really clever way to use this tree. So this is the card that we're going to be making. And you can see that it's basically seasonal. So we have the summer, the spring, the winter, and the fall with a beautiful little sentiment that says our friendship is timeless. Now again, this stamp set doesn't have any sentiments, so I actually borrowed this our friendship is timeless sentiment from the Timeless Tropical stamp set. And that's a great stamp set, and it has tons of really fun and beautiful sayings, and then also some super fun tropical images, pineapples and palm trees. So if you're interested in this sentiment in particular, you'll want to get that stamp set. So let's get started. So I went ahead and pre-did a couple of the trees for us here. And these trees are trees that you can actually do back to back because they use basically the same color. So if you do the summer tree first, and you do the spring tree second, then you don't have to wipe off your stamp as much. So we have the summer and the spring already, and what we're going to do is when we're ready to make the card, we're actually going to split this tree in half, and we're going to get 2 halves of the summer tree, 2 halves of the spring tree, and then 2 halves of the fall and winter tree as well. So I'm going to show you how to do the fall and the winter tree, knowing that we did the summer and the spring tree the exact same way. So we'll set these off to the side so we can cut them later. I've already cleaned my stamp, and we are using our Stamparatus. I tried it without the Stamparatus, and sometimes the image is just a little bit too light. So I think for this particular project, it's a really good idea to use your Stamparatus if you have one. If not, you can certainly do this project without it. Because this is a red rubber stamp and it's already mounted on the phone, you don't need your black foam for this. So we're going to set that off to the side. And then this is a piece of paper that I use, or that Stampin' Up sells, and I just reuse it within an inch of its life. So this is just a very scrap piece of paper on here. And we're going to be using, let's get our piece of cardstock in there first. One thing is the magnets are actually stored on the bottom of your Stamparatus, and I actually put some washi tape on mine. This was obviously an idea given to me from several other demonstrators to do the same thing, and it just helps removing the magnet a little bit because these are very strong magnets. If you do have a pacemaker or any type of internal medical device, you do want to be careful about using these. Maybe talk to your doctor just to make sure that that won't mess up with its alignment or anything like that, because they're the super strong magnets. So we're going to put this up here. All right, and then we're going to be using the sponge daubers. Now, I have a sponge dauber for almost every color, at least every color that I've used so far. And I will say that they're $5 for 5 daubers. So it's very easy to kind of have one for every color. It's not so much like the blending brushes where if you wanted to have one for every color, that's kind of an investment. This is still an investment, but a little bit less of one. So I do have one for each of them. If you're going to want to reuse, 1 dauber or 5 daubers for each of your stamp sets, since they come in a set of 5, you just want to make sure that you either rinse them off in between uses so you don't contaminate your ink pads, or that you use from light to dark. So you use your lightest color first, and then kind of get out as much as you can by kind of smashing the sponge a little bit on the top, and then going from, again, light to dark. So starting with your yellows, your oranges, and then moving up to your browns and your blacks. All right, so we are going to do the fall tree first. So I have picked out a few colors here. So I have Pumpkin Pie, Real Red, Mango Melody, and we're also going to be using Soft Suede. For the summer tree, or the spring tree, I used Pear Pizzazz and Polished Pink. And for the summer tree, I used Pear Pizzazz and Soft Suede. So we will use these 3 colors here. And again, I have, let me open up all these stamp pads here. And then I have a dauber for each of them. And then we'll get started. So one thing that I really want to impress, because I actually kind of tore up one of my daubers as I was doing it, when you're using your sponge dauber, especially on a stamp like this, there's lots of different textures and different and they're not sharp, but sharp points that the dauber can get caught on. So when you're doing your dauber, you want to make sure that you go up and down and don't drag. If you drag, you're going to start to take off that layer of sponge, and you can still obviously use it, but it's not going to be in its like initial condition. So if you're like me and you want your craft stuff to remain in pristine as condition as possible, make sure that you're going up and down and not side to side and not dragging it, or you know, that you're picking it up all the way as you go. So let's start. We are going to start with the real red. So let me get some real red on here, and actually let me show you how I'm doing that. So I'm just going up and down on the ink pad, turn it sideways a little bit so you can see, up and down on the ink pad and getting some color on there. And then I'm simply just pressing it again up and down randomly on the stamp. And you don't have to worry about getting every inch of it because, again, we're going to be using a few different colors. So next we're going to use Mango Melody. And I probably should have, again, since I'm putting it on the stamp sequentially, I probably should have used the Mango Melody first, again, starting from light to dark. However, it'll be okay because I'm going to only get ink on here once. So I'm not going to put it back in my ink pad, and I can kind of scrape the red off if it gets contaminated at all. And because it's yellow, the color may not show up very well on your red rubber stamp, and that's okay. It's still on there. You just might not be able to see it. So that's why, again, another great reason to use the Stamparatus, because you have that ability to, you have that ability to, there it is. Okay, I couldn't find my pumpkin pie one. You have the ability to re-stamp it. So once you get all of your ink on there, if you're like, oh, you know what, I'm really missing some orange, or I'm really missing some pink, you can re-stamp it, just reapply, and then re-stamp it and get some more of the color that you're wanting to get. The same thing with, sometimes my edges are, because we're dabbing it and we're not just stamping it into an ink pad, sometimes my edges aren't exactly right. Like I maybe missed a spot. And so that's really helpful too, to have that. And my last little step here, I'm going to take some soft suede, and I'm just going to do a little bit just every now and then, because of course in the fall we're getting those rich reds, and at least where I live, we're getting the rich reds and the oranges and yellows, and then there's also tinges of brown in there too. So we're just going to put a couple of brown spots in there, and then we're just going to roll it over and stamp. And maybe get rid of that off my finger. I'm just going to press, not hard, I'm pressing firmly but not hard. And one thing you want to know is try to get it more, if you're trying to align something on your Stamparatus, try to get it more in the middle rather than the corner, because you're going to be able to get a better pressing surface. And also you have less tendency to break or warp your plates if you're pushing in the middle versus pushing in the corners. So try to get it in the middle of your Stamparatus. We're going to push down just a little bit. Beautiful. Okay, it worked great. Sometimes I have had to redo them before because I was like, oh, I don't really like that. But that one I think is just top notch. And since we're going to be cutting these apart, I'm just going to actually flip it over, and we're going to do the winter one. So now the winter one, I'm going to close up all my stamp pads too. That's another thing. I like to keep all of my stamp pads closed. I like to keep all of my stamps clean. So unfortunately it takes a little bit more time in the video, but you know what? I think it's absolutely worth it. So we'll close that up, and then our red one. And then we are going to be using Balmy Blue, Misty Moonlight, and Smoky Slate for our winter tree here. Couldn't get that Balmy Blue open, goodness. Which is great because that means that my seal is nice and tight on these stamp pads, and that's going to keep them nice and fresh. And then lastly, our Misty Moonlight here. And Misty Moonlight is probably one of my favorite. Pool Party is my actual favorite blue. But Misty Moonlight is my favorite dark blue because I think it gives the effect of navy, but also is a little bit more bright compared to navy. So now in between the fall, winter, and then the summer/spring, you're going to want to clean your stamp off. It doesn't have to be a really great job, but especially between that fall and the winter, because the winter tree is a little bit lighter because you're using the blues instead of the reds and the oranges. I just give it a nice, good clean with my chamois here. And this was a tip that I learned watching another demonstrator, but when I actually am putting on the ink or any type of time I'm using the Stamparatus, there is an incline to that Stamparatus acrylic plate here. So when I'm putting on ink, I just put a stamp case underneath it, and that gives me a surface that I can push on. And sometimes I actually really even just hold it. It just really is, you know, however I'm deciding to do my stamping that day. So let's get some more ink on our balmy blue here. Again, we're starting from light to dark. This time we are actually going to do it the way I said you should do it. We're going to start with balmy blue. And the good news is you're going to be able to see more of these colors as you're putting them on. And there is a lot of color in that sponge, so it doesn't have to be completely saturated. Some colors are going to saturate that sponge a lot better than others, and some you're not even going to be able to really see it too well on the sponge without repeated use. So we're just going to kind of get that blue all over. There we go. And then we're going to do smoky slate, and that's a beautiful gray. And it's definitely more of a, you know, they have like grays that have yellow tones and grays that have purple tones. Smoky slate is definitely like a true gray, I think. If anything, it may have like slight blue tones, I think. So that's why it's a perfect stamp to use, or a perfect color to use for this stamp that we're doing today. And last, we're going to do Misty Moonlight. And we're going to do the same thing. And Misty Moonlight, like I said, is one of my favorite blues. I use it far more than I use Night of Navy, but I love Night of Navy too. I do love blues. And if you've been around at all, you'll hear me talk about Pool Party all the time because that is my absolute favorite. I'm just going to pull this down just a little bit because I want to make sure that we get the whole tree, but I also want to make sure that we don't mix it up with our fall tree here. And I'm just going to flip it over. That should be absolutely perfect. There we go. And hopefully we don't need to restamp this one because I just moved everything, but if not, we'll be okay. And again, we're just pressing down, not pressing down too hard, just pressing down firmly. I'm kind of rocking my hand just a little bit to make sure that I'm getting the whole image. And there we have it. Beautiful. Okay, so we're going to just set this off to the side. I'll clean that stamp later. And then I'm going to close my stamp pads just so I don't get ink everywhere, which will be exactly what happens if I don't close my ink pads. And this is basically enough trees to make 2 cards. So we have tons of images here to cut, but we're just going to cut them in half. So I'm going to try to get it lined up as much as possible. On my other cards, I didn't really get trunk in both of them, and that's what I would really like to do today, but it is a little bit more difficult, and you can see I didn't really do it there. But if you can get it lined up exactly on that trunk, it looks so awesome. So let's try again with this one. If not, it still is a beautiful card. It's just nice to have that trunk on either side. Let's see. Nope. I'm always off a little bit on this side. I think I need to turn my my paper here, but we'll try to do it on this one too. And if not, that's okay. You still get the effects of the trees and the leaves, I think. So, and let's see. Whoops. All right, there we go. Let's try it. Hopefully that worked. Oh, almost. Okay. Well, that's okay. We did it pretty well on the other tree there. And then we're also going to cut these ones in half because we did both on this one piece of paper here because I've been using scraps up. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually cut these down to 1 inch by, I think, about 3 inches. And that should give us a good enough image to see what it is, but then also a small enough image to fit on the front of our card. So let's do 1 inch first. And the best way to do that, in my opinion, is to take the side that it's measured and then cut off the other. So there we go. So that's a 1 inch piece right there. And our card is going to be I can't get that off the board there. Our card is going to be, the front piece of our card is going to be about 4 by 5, 5.25. So we want to just make sure that it's going to fit on that front side there. So actually, you know what, we're going to do 3, maybe I did 3.75 for it. We want to make sure that we're, oh, see, I almost messed up there. We want to make sure that we're taking off, the white parts before we measure. So that way we can get as much of the tree as possible. And we also want to make sure that we're taking the part off of the trunk. So that way we can make sure that we are getting what looks like a full tree there. So we'll set that part off to the side. We're going to do the same thing for all of the other trees. So I'll just quickly start doing this a little bit better. 1 inch. And if you cut off a little bit of the watercolor edge, that's okay too. So like there, I cut off a little bit of the green. That's all right, because it's going to look fairly uniform across the trees. There we go. And then at the end, we're just going to make sure that they all kind of are the same length. And it's okay if there's a little bit of variation, because we're just going to, we'll move it to the bottom and then we're going to cover it up with a sentiment. So not a huge deal if we can't get it perfect. The only time you want to be really careful is if you're using random scraps. You just want to make sure that the piece is going to definitely be able to be at least long enough. I made one piece and it was not long enough, so I had to kind of redo all of them. Go. There's that. And then last, let's see, what have we done? We've done, so we just need our winter. So we have our spring, our summer, and our fall, and we just need our winter. So let's cut this one, and hopefully I cut, let's see. Yes, okay, perfect. So you also want to make sure that you have enough lefts and enough rights. So you'll have to have 2 lefts and 2 rights for every card, so that way the trees can go together. Whoops. Boy, that was almost a big snafu. That's okay. We could have redone it. All right, and then let's just make sure that we're about long enough there with that. Oops, a little too long, so let's spin it around. Right. There we go. And then we can see that we're about even on all of them. Some of them are just a smidge shorter, but that's okay because we'll make sure that they're lined up at the top when we're putting them on the page here. And actually, we may put a couple up on dimensionals. I haven't done that. I didn't do that on the other cards, but as I was doing them, I thought, gee, that would look really beautiful if we did it like that. So let's see. And actually, we may want, if we want to do it in order, we may need to cut the other sides too. Let's see. So again, we have enough pieces here to do 4 trees. Oops, I almost threw away my winter piece here. So if we want to do, let's see, fall and winter, that, and then we want to do spring and summer. We may need to cut our spring piece again. So let's cut that one and we'll see what that looks like. Oops, let me bring this back into the frame here. And this is actually a really therapeutic project. I feel like it's not difficult at all, and it has an amazing wow factor. It's certainly not the simplest project, but definitely it's still a good one. Definitely still an easy weeknight project if you work full-time, or if you're a busy mom or dad, or and you just need some easy crafting time. This is a great project, I think. Okay, so let's see. So we have our spring and summer, and then we've got our fall and winter. So we also need to trim up our winter one to make sure that they match. That's okay. We might be able to make both cards on the screen. I was just going to do one, but what a bonus. All right, let's see. Oops, cut that a little thin. That's okay. We can make it work. This is definitely like a collage kind of project, so you can really kind of do what you will. There we go. All right. So let's see if that'll look good. And I definitely recommend, so I don't like that as much. So we can just do, we'll do the opposite sides. We'll do it like this then. Okay. Again, this will definitely be the longest part of your project here. It's going to be deciding how you want to put those trees on. But it will be worth it because it's going to be beautiful. Let's see. All right. There we go. So our winter and our fall will be backwards a little bit. That's okay. I'm not that worried about it. There we go. And you can see that they're all about the same height. We can definitely line them up to be the same height. And they are going to be a little bit overlapping. So let me get some dimensionals. We're going to try overlapping them today too. So let's go ahead and start assembling this big guy. So we're going to start with our spring, and we're going to place our spring, however you can see I reused this cardstock. I stamped the first one and didn't like it when I was pre-making these pieces here. So the movie magic wasn't quite as strong. So we will put it up here. And we do have a sentiment, so we do want to be cognizant of that sentiment. That's going to be at the base of the card, and that's going to be, we're going to have enough there, enough room for that, and it's going to add enough for it. And then let's get 2 dimensionals, and we're going to prop up the summer, and we're going to prop up the fall, so on either side of our trees here. So we'll have 1 down, 1 up, 1 down, 1 up. All right, and then we're going to have this one slightly overlapping, but we're going to make sure that it lines up at the top and not so much at the bottom. There we go, just like that. All right, and then we're going to do our winter tree, and we're going to put him down because we just did up for summer. And this is just a great little all-around, you know, if you're thinking of you card. And again, making sure that we, whoa, why is he, oh, I forgot to take the dimensional sticker off. Ah, that's funny. Here we go. I haven't done that in a while. All right, and then we will make sure that we're lined up at the top again. And we're going to stick him underneath just a little bit. There we are, so that there's no edges, basically. There we go. And then we're also going to put up our fall tree on dimensionals too. We're going to take the stickers off too this time. I was wondering, I was like, gosh, that dimensional's not very sticky. It didn't stick very well. Nope, it didn't, because I didn't take the sticker off. Let me turn it this way so I can make sure they're all lined up. That seems about good there. Here we go, just like that. Perfect. All right, and then we're going to take our sentiment, and we are just going to put it right over the top of this. Now, originally my plan was to put it on dimensionals, and I think I've changed that plan. I think I'm going to use glue dots since we put these guys up on dimensionals. So we're changing it up a little as we go, which is okay with me. I'm just going to use my scissors and get a couple glue dots for that tree. There's more than one way to do a project, and I think that that obviously always shows true. Whenever I replicate a project, it always feels like it turns out just a little different. And I'm okay with that, I think. And then we'll just stick it here. And we may actually, because this one is on a dimensional, we're going to actually need a little mini dimensional on this side. So we can get that. No problem. So we'll put it right where our glue dot was. So now we have a glue dot on one side and a dimensional on the other. And press it down. Oh my gosh, beautiful. Okay, so there's that. And then last but not least, we're going to do a ribbon. Like that. And oops, I just pulled it out. There we go. Okay. And I think I like this one better than my original. Let me try to get that edge to kind of tuck our ribbon there behind him. There we go. And there we have it. So here's the original. The original pieces were a little bit longer, and I think especially if you're going to do the dimensionals, I would go ahead and make them a little bit longer. But definitely I can just cut this down just a little bit and make it just a little bit of a shorter card, and that's going to be totally fine for me. I also use this smaller piece here, so that's something that if you want to make this piece bigger, you can make that piece bigger and cover up more of that space here. This was the first one I made, so you can see that they're a little uneven, but that's how project creation goes, I think. So you can see that here it's up on dimensionals, and so it gives a little more dimension as you're looking at the card, and then remember that it's one glue dot on this side and a dimensional on that side. So that is the second card using the Amazing Silhouette stamp set. So this, again, I think I said in the other video, this stamp set was not a stamp set that I would have chosen, I don't think. It's beautiful and I love it, but I love open lined stamps so I can color it in. And I love whimsical creatures, so I love, you know, the reindeer and the rabbits and all that kind of stuff. So I received this as part of a Stampin' Up! Promotion for demonstrators, and I absolutely love it. I've used it tons of times, and I'm so glad that I got this and I was able to try something new, because I do think that it has really added to my opinion of these watercolor silhouette stamps. Beautiful images. So we have our 3 cards here, and they're perfect for sending to a friend or a family member that just needs a reminder that you're thinking of them. So I hope you'll give it a try, and I hope you have a great day.